Celtic's crisis continues with the one at the weekend taking us to 8 wins in the last 9 games. Welcome to the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by James and Miff as we cover all things Celtic. Miff, I'll come to you first. How are you feeling about everything at the moment?
Hello Tino, hello James, hello listeners. How am I feeling? Feeling good. Just a welcome sort of routine victory. We've not had one of those in a wee while, so it's nice when you just kind of watch the game, Celtic turn up, score goals and win. It was still a tough game. St Mirren, cup games invariably are, especially when they're away from home, but most important thing is we're in the next round.
What about the draw? Livy at home, is that a shoe-in for a hand in semi-final, or should we not be so presumptuous?
Well, you can't be presumptuous, but it's a favourable draw, there's no doubt about that, and what it does suggest is that it'll be another one of those games where we need to overcome the 2 banks of 5.
Yeah, no doubt. James, much better, performance, generally speaking, in Paisley. What do you think of the new formation? 4-4-1-1-ish?
Yeah, I'd say pretty much that. I liked it. I heard Rodgers talking on the radio on the way in there. He was saying a lot of it's to do with when there is that kind of low block phase. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a low block team and we weren't set up that way yesterday, but they'll go into those phases certainly when we're attacking. And he finds Ida is a good man to have in that position because he's getting balls that then bounce back to dangerous areas for players to make the most of. And he knows there's tweaking and more practice of that required to accentuate it and just make it as good as it can be. But yeah, I liked it. Yeah,
there was talk about the fact that we were maybe more in control yesterday. I don't know if we were completely in control, and we certainly gave up some chances, but do you feel it was a more assured performance? Celtic have been getting the results, as I say, they're 8 wins from 9, but performances have been sketchy. So do you think it was a wee bit more comfortable, for want of a better word?
Yeah, well, I described it as routine, and what I mean by that is where there's not a huge amount of jeopardy in the game. You're fairly confident as the game goes on that Celtic are going to win. I think the case in point around the tweak in the formation is the first goal comes from Kyogo arriving on the ball, whereas before he would be standing in between 2 centre halves watching the ball probably go from side to side and wonder if he's going to anticipate a shot. Instead, we've actually got Kyogo using excellent technique, arriving onto the ball and allowing him to get his shot away. Now, obviously, there's an element of luck in the goal and the fact that it gets through Dunn's legs, but still, if you don't shoot, you don't score. And I think that's an idea of, Kyogo is an excellent player. He's technically a very good player. I just think you have to just try and get him as involved in the game as much as possible. And with Ida's sort of movement and being more of what you would describe as a target man type player creates a bit of confusion in the opposition defence. Then if you've got Kyogo lying deep coming into the box, he can benefit from that.
Yeah, I think just when Palmer or Maeda or whoever looks up and they've got Ida, looks a pretty decent target man, and Kyogo to hit, if not your on-rushing midfielders, then it's a decent few options to have. James, do you think the St Mirren goalie was blinded by Kyogo's sparkling new Nashers?
I know I was. Yeah.
What are they?
Whiter than white. It's got to be a mouth shield, isn't it?
Is it a gum shield of sorts? Yes.
Has to be.
Any insight, Miff?
That's what I'm saying. I have absolutely no insight whatsoever.
It was absolutely spectacular.
Halloween piece.
But he seems a bit happier, James. The main thing for Kyogo any given time is getting back in the goals, the goal sheet, and his celebration was, a bit of relief in there as well. Given that he's not been hitting the net as regularly, and that'll be a very welcome boost to him.
Yeah, it was relief in terms of finally back on the trail kind of thing, and I suppose it shows him that Rodgers sees him as an integral part of this team, and he's going to find the best place for him within Rodgers' setup. And that seems to be, something that that 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1 is directly responsible for putting Kyogo in that position to score that goal. So, he's got to feel good about that the manager's finding the place for him.
The most encouraging thing for me, Miff, was the fact that the manager has seen what we've all been seeing in terms of it's just not been working, and that he's saw fit to change it for St Mirren. Stubborn managers, and you could accuse Rodgers at times of being stubborn, maybe would have turned around and said, nah, listen, 4-3-3 is my system, I'm sticking with it. Yous are all wrong, nobody knows what I'm talking about, and this is the way. He's clearly seen an opportunity. We finished the Aberdeen game 4-4-2, albeit we didn't get the goal that we needed, but he's obviously seen something in that, and the fact that you've got either Adam Ida or potentially O as that target man, allowing Kyogo that number 10 kind of area to roam in, there's clearly something in it, and it looks like it's something that we might continue for the next few games.
I think the good news for Celtic fans is, as the weeks pass, Rodgers seems to be becoming slightly more unhinged, which means he's going to get back to full psychopath, which is probably for the best for everybody involved, because this watered down sort of, corporate suit man that we've had just isn't what we wanted. You could even see it in his post-match bants with Lenny and Emma Dodds and Jim Goodwin. You can see the madness is slowly coming back. I think you saw him giving it the big at Easter Road.
Yeah.
Shackles were off. I thought, and I was talking about this with a few of my mates, I thought that the arm out the Range Rover on London Road was going to be the prelude to something a bit bigger. We've had wee skirmishes around it, but he just the past couple, he's come out fighting a wee bit, and I think that Sunday was like a continuation of that. What that leads to is he's probably looking at it thinking, I need to do something, because he would have felt the performance levels weren't the same. But I think he's also stung as well that he doesn't seem to have a lot of credit in the bank, either from a section of Celtic fans or even the media. He obviously feels like that the negativity is continual, and he's decided to come out fighting. Now, I mean that on both in the sense of his post-match interviews, but also what he's doing on the park. He's really backing the players that he's got. I think he's working with a lower quality squad than he would like. I think that's obvious. We haven't strengthened in areas we probably should have, but the line's been drawn under that now, and I think that this is Rodgers' way of saying that. It's like, these are my guys, I'm going to back them, why don't you back us?
I think in the media thing, it's really quite obvious the last few weeks. Clement's been making tweaks to unlock the title challenge, and Rodgers is scrambling around for answers by changing his squad. That's the narrative that's been put out.
Yeah, the headlines that are doing the rounds.
Exactly. Question I've got for you is, Kyogo then moving into the kind of a 10 role, if he was rested for whatever reason, does it give you an opportunity to play Palma in there?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
I think that's really interesting.
When the team came out, people weren't sure. What is this? Is it 3-5-2, 4-4-2? What's the story? And a couple of folks mentioned that it might be an opportunity for Palma to play in that 10. And that said, he's played a key part in both the goals on the day. Honking. So yes, you get a 6 out of 10 in our start check, Miff. But he did provide, and that's what you need him to do to try and kind of assist and unlock defences, and he certainly done that. But he has got the skill. We know he's a skillful guy, technically pretty gifted, and maybe he could slot into that 10. I
think with Palma, much like with Maeda, you'll need to make your peace with what he doesn't do with the fact that he's just going to pop up
with something
inconsistently with assists and goals, but his general play is not. It's got to be something that's got to frustrate you more often than not.
That's not going to last though.
Well,
as in he won't last if that's the case.
Again, that remains to be seen, but could you play him in the 10? Yes, I think centrally you'd probably get more out of him, because in the absence, now that we don't have Turnbull, we need someone with a bit of technique who can strike the ball for the edge of the box. That's something that's missing for players who play in that position, and he can most certainly do that.
Yeah, he can. We'll get stuck into it all in a bit more detail, but before we do so, just a short request from us. Remember that we now provide pre- and post-match shows for every Celtic game, so make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcast, meaning you'll never miss an episode. Alternatively, if you tend to watch your shows on YouTube, then make sure you're subscribing to the channel there for the very same reason. And if you've not already done so, you can now listen to the post-match show from the win against St Mirren, as well as all other episodes in our back catalogue, including special episodes with Lobo Moravchik and Martin O'Neill. James, to get us started this week, as a continuation, I suppose, of the St Mirren chat, I want to talk about the players' mentality and what we've seen from them in recent weeks. It's been a particularly tense time around the club, certainly since the window opened and closed with the failings that we know about. But despite that, including the Rangers win and a few wins before it, as we've touched on a couple of times now, Celtic are 8 wins and 1 draw from 9. So yes, performances aren't great, but they're doing something right.
Yeah, they're sticking with it through a really tough time. I mean, you look at, the back four yesterday, and I thought by and large they were all very good. They're all second string. Your full back four second string, you need to go back a bit to find a Celtic team that is just full back four as second string, and that permeates, or that replicates throughout the squad. When you've had strikers out, you've had wingers out, you get guys away for tournaments, injuries everywhere. So the fact that we've got to where we've got to, with all that going on and all the noise and the unnecessary negativity created by the club by not signing anyone to support the manager and support the players, I think it's a real testament to them. And now we're in a position where with Awata on the bench there on Sunday, which I thought was really positive. And then you've got Taylor back at the weekend. You've got Carter Vickers coming back. Hatate won't be far behind that. So you're looking at mid-March probably being, full strength when it's most required. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and the key is getting there, Miff. Those players James mentions returning from injury, they'll provide a huge boost to what Celtic are doing. But in the meantime, the players have just had to keep winning games of football, and with the exception of the Aberdeen game, they've done exactly that.
They have, and mentality is an extremely important thing at a club like Celtic, because recognising that you do have an effect to win every game. Like you mentioned, that block of games, 8 wins out of 9, 1 draw at a difficult venue, a historically difficult venue in any case, and yet the fans are still really quite, there's just constant questioning of the team's form, the way they've played, the formation they've played, the personnel that's been chosen. Are certain players good enough to even be in the squad? Those players are now starting games. The likes of Ralston, Welsh, Bernaby. Even to a degree, that noise has been around sort of Palma and Maeda as well. At times where a section of the fans really just can't want Maeda, no matter what he does. For me, I'm not one of them. I'm quite a fan of his brand of chaos. But the mentality that you have to have as a Celtic player is that whatever you do, come back with the 3 points. And I think you're seeing elements of that within the squad, which has to bode well, because I don't think there's really been many times this season we feel we've played really well for a period of games. It's been very bitty around performance, but fans will accept that as long as we're winning. For me, it's hard. I understand the negativity for the fans to a degree, because I think that comes from the boardroom, the manager not being backed and the squad not being supported. So in some ways you feel sorry for the players, because they've not been supported by the hierarchy to go into this sort of title run. But then at the same time, I think a huge element of the nervousness and the negativity towards the team is we had a comfortable position, we've thrown it away. Again, you can level that partly at the boardroom, partly at the players, partly at the manager. But I think what we need to do is just kind of brace ourselves for the fact, right, well, it is going to be a slugfest from now to the end of the season. Prepare for that and just support the team. That's ultimately what we have to do. And maybe we as a group of fans have just lost that kind of nerve for the battle, because we've been so used to having it our own way for so long.
Yeah, it might be a bit of anxiety as much as anything, James.
Yeah, it is, but I think there's, if you want to get into the therapy of it all, no one at Celtic, fans, players, management, board, whatever, has processed Ange Postecoglou leaving. It was just, right, what's next? Right, get back on my here's a new season. So when there's a bump in the road, it's you flock back to, it was great under Ange, and it was all this and it was all that. It doesn't matter if it was or it wasn't. We are where we are, and we've got to move forward from here. So I think that's partly where the anxiety comes from, because we just haven't had any time to process that. It was such a huge manager in Celtic's history. It's going to be important in the grand scheme of things, Ange's place in Celtic's history. And the board have signed a top calibre manager, which is a bit of a, I have to give them plaudits for that. But then they haven't backed him, and you're kind of going, what are you doing, man? The continuity potential was all there. So, again, we are where we are. So the door's locked, the players are in the room. These are the players we've got to the end of the season. What a title this would be to win this season, by the way, because we're being written off, top of the league being written off. It's going to be one of the sweetest ever if we can get there.
So Ange PTSD, is that what it all comes down to?
Ange PTSD.
Yeah. I mean, it explains a fair amount of things, but I think now we're kind of 7-8 months of Brendan Rodgers, and I understand initially there's bumps in the road. And saying that, you referenced the interview with him, Neil Lennon and Jim Goodwin. It was pretty enjoyable. It was kind of 7 minutes or so with just football guys shooting the breeze and all that kind of stuff. And he says it's taken time, and he accepted that we've not been playing the way that we should be playing, and it's just part of, trying to reintroduce his system. I know he's been questioned at times of how he's spoken about the players and the lack of quality he's got. He actually spoke very highly of them then. He said, listen, we've got a great bunch of lads. The new guys have come in, they've all tried to integrate. I can't fault them. They've been doing everything to make this work. So you're right, he knows what he's got now, Muff, between now and the end of the season. And it looks like he's trying to just galvanise the team, and there's nothing that'll do that better than picking up wins. He's quoted as saying at the time, the narrative around our team is that we're not together, but you can't come and win comfortably like that if you're not. So referencing the St Mirren game. At the same time, Callum McGregor was speaking. He says, we block out the noise and just focus on what we're doing. Is it almost, Miff, I don't think it's quite full siege mentality, but is it something down that road that they're trying to engineer?
Yeah, well, that's what I was referencing when I was speaking earlier, was that he's clearly hurt by it. It's bothering him, probably more than he's ever let anything in the Scottish media bother him before from memory. So that's quite noteworthy in itself, that if it's taking something like that to really get his back up and just go back to, kind of full proper Brendan, then great. It's got to bode well
Don't be
for us.
disrespectful.
But that's
That kind of stuff,
There you go. So
Excellent accent, James.
So that for me is what I'm taking out of this, is it seems to have kind of lit a bit of fire under him. And this season, I think James is quite right. We had a manager whose very presence and charisma ran right through the entire club, and probably masked a lot of the failings within the club at that time, and we've kind of reverted back to type, as you can just clearly see from the transfer windows. So it was always going to take a bit of time, and now that the transfer window's by, you can be philosophical and say, right, well, you know what, this is it, I'm a Celtic fan, I support the team, let's go all out to the end of the season, that's fine. The one wee asterisk next to all of that is, that's all well and good, but you need to win, and you need to keep winning, and it's as simple as that. And I think doing that right through until the end of the season is asking a lot of the current squad, given that there is still a few of them come back now. James makes a good point, a lot of them are coming back soon, can't come quick enough, but with that starting 11, it wouldn't be surprising if you're then going to incrementally drop points in a running, because quite simply it's just not strong enough.
And this is where Brendan Rodgers needs to come into his own, James. There's folk, I call them an elite manager, or certainly something close to an elite manager, and then you get certain folk, jumping all over that. He's nothing like an elite manager. You either like him or you don't. That's the camp Celtic fans are in. You either rate him or you don't rate him. There's no really much in between. There's no fans thinking, yeah, he's decent at times, but not so good at other times. So I think he is a talented manager, but this is where he needs to show exactly why Celtic have paid the most money in Scottish football in terms of a manager to bring him back to the club. So I'm pleased, Miff, that you're right. It seems that this has lit a fire underneath Brendan Rodgers, and I think we'll get the benefits of that. Just in terms of the players, to stay on that message. So from Callum McGregor's comments, if you watch them after the game, there's no doubt they're hearing it. Players are reading or hearing or seeing on social media exactly what's been said about them. And I think there needs to be real credit given, certainly to Callum McGregor and Joe Hart, who I think's also really stepped up. There's various other guys. Brendan Rodgers mentioned it's, you take those two out and it's a really young team. It's not. The youngest is Adam Ida, who turned 23 yesterday. Everyone at Maida's 26, Ralston's 25, Welsh is 25, even Bernabe's 24, Palmer's turned 24, Kyogo's 29. It's not a team of young guys, but I think what he's maybe referencing is that between them, they've not got a lot of senior appearances for some of these guys that we've mentioned, which is fine. But I think certainly, Callum McGregor and Joe Hart, they do have that experience. They've been there, seen it, done it all, and they've done it for Celtic as well. Joe Hart's had a illustrious career, everywhere else, but he's also now won a couple of titles for Celtic. He knows exactly what it takes to win here, and I think you need to credit those two in particular for pulling Celtic through what's been a pretty ropey 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, that's I suppose where the transfer window smarts, because you're saying, give me two more of them, two more guys who've been over the piece with other teams, other leagues, whatever kind of thing. But yeah, it's full credit to those two certainly, and to Rodgers for galvanising them. I think Joe Hart's been outstanding last few games. I think McGregor's still in a bit of patchy form, but that will come. He's just doing so much work other than his day job. He's covering so many positions, and the other guys are starting to play their part as well. So I think Ralston and Welsh are a big part of it. They're really driving the others to raise their standards of commitment. We talked about it in the post-match yesterday. You can have all the talent you want, but if you're not going to commit and deliver, then it doesn't matter. You can knock them for their slightly less levels of talent, but you can't knock their commitment, and they're raising that throughout the team.
I think that's an excellent point about Ralston. I mean, as a Celtic fan, we can often sit here and bemoan, the type of player that plays for the jersey, and it doesn't matter how technically limited. I don't mean to be disrespectful to Ralston. If he was listening, I said probably want to punch me square in the face. But Ralston does an excellent job with the toolkit that he's got. But not only that, he goes over and above in terms of what just the sheer effort and desire that he brings you.
Did you see where that ball started with him and Ewan?
Yep.
He was 80-20 to get that, and he just took it.
So when you see that there's no doubt that inspires, whether you're new in the door or you've been in the door for 20 years. If you watch someone on the park playing like that, it does lift your levels, because it means something, and then it means something to you. And an academy product playing for Celtic and showing that level of commitment, that's what we all want as Celtic fans.
Yep.
That tackle you mentioned, James, that led to the penalty, that led to the win against Hibs, it's not too dramatic to say that could have been a title-winning tackle. Yep. It's so important. And Tony Ralston's got previous with his goal against Ross County in Ange's first season, 97th minute. And I'm delighted for a guy like Tony Ralston, because he's had to bide his time. Alistair Johnston is a better technical footballer than Tony Ralston, but Tony Ralston's got the heart of a lion, and I think that's what we need just now when the chips have been slightly down, or something to that effect. And it's McGregor, it's Welsh, it's Ralston, it's 3 academy kids that seem to be pulling Celtic through at this moment in time, plus the experience of Joe Hart. James, your final comments as we wrap up this part of the show?
Just that we're in a better position than a lot of people would give us credit for, and that's within the Celtic support and out with. So let's be thankful we've got to where we are, and we're ready to launch it in the next phase. Yeah,
definitely. Let's take a short break, and when we return, we'll look at what's become an increasingly difficult situation regarding Liel Abada's Celtic future. Welcome back, folks. We're now going to turn our attention to what's become a particularly difficult situation for Liel Abada at Celtic. James, he was left out the squad altogether at the weekend, and I think ultimately it's been the right move. He was very, very poor against Hibs, as bad as you've maybe seen a sub coming on for Celtic in recent times. I think that there was a stat doing the rounds that in the short time he was on the park, he gave the ball away 7 times. His head was clearly not in it, and that's reflected in the fact that he was left out. Brendan Rodgers was quoted on that decision as saying, "He wasn't in the right frame of mind. I've spoken a lot to Liel, and it's been a challenging time for him. I just felt when he came into the game the other night, it just wasn't him. So we gave him this chance to have a few days off and clear his mind. I'll have a chat with him again next week, and we'll see where he's at." If it's hard to understand fully what he's experiencing as a young player, a 22-year-old guy, given what's going on in his home country, but it's hard also to see a solution for Liel Abada at Celtic at this time.
Well, there's lots of different threads running through it. There's obviously the very sensitive situation that's going on in the Middle East around Gaza and Israel. Celtic fans, the majority of Celtic fans' stance on that is very well known, which would obviously make that uncomfortable for someone of Liel Abada's upbringing. However, ultimately, and I've mentioned this before, vast majority of Celtic fans that go to the games, whilst being sensitive to the subject, will concentrate mainly on the football when they're there, and will only be interested on the output of any player on the pitch, Liel Abada included. If external factors, whatever that might be, war, personal circumstances, whatever, affect your output on the football pitch, then you shouldn't be considered for selection. And that might sound harsh, but ultimately Liel Abada has been given a tremendous platform at Celtic to showcase his skills prior to all this unfortunate trouble becoming him in his time at Celtic and becoming the unfortunate people in Gaza. He was being spoken of very highly, and as someone who was most likely to leave, he was haggling in contract negotiations and potentially looking to move to or have a more lucrative move to somewhere else in Europe. So Celtic have given him that platform, and he's a contracted employee of Celtic, so he's expected to turn up for his work and do his job. As I say, external factors can sometimes affect that, as they do anyone in any walk of life, in any job that they do. But for me, I think we've probably reached a tipping point with it now, where he's been given that platform back and the opportunity to grasp it and then kick on and reignite his career at Celtic. I think the Celtic fans have shown a real willingness to support him in doing that. I don't think that's in doubt. He's been welcomed back into the fold with open arms. He looks to have been very well supported by the staff as well. They've been sensitive to the situation that he's in. And to be quite frank, to this point, I don't think he's repaid any of that. So if that means that coming back into the first team after everything that's happened has been a bridge too far, then we've got a duty here to Abada himself if it's going to make. If the tipping point was indeed that performance against Hibs, which whilst Abada can be erratic, he can give the ball away, he can make rash decisions when he's on the ball, he can also make some very good ones, and he can also be really, really effective. He was so ineffective to the point where he was effectively a liability, I would say, on the pitch. Once you get to that point, if your head's that scrambled that you don't know when to get your head up and play a simple pass or cross the ball or take a man on, you're doing the player a favour by taking him out the firing line. I think Rodgers' words there are fairly accurate around, let's have a chat, are you ready to play? No, you're not. Go and clear your head, we'll pick it up in a few days. If this cycle continues, then I can't see him playing again for Celtic, to be honest with you, because it becomes an untenable position, which is really, really unfortunate. I'm not for 1 minute saying I don't want Liel Abada to play for Celtic again. What I hope is that he comes to a place in his mind where he feels comfortable enough to go on the pitch, clear his mind, and just go back to the Liel Abada that we've come to know over the past couple of years at Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, James, there's been there was a concern or a question mark as to how he'd be received when he did return from injury. He got the last 10 minutes or so in that Rangers game. We were there and he got a huge applause,
Yep.
Almost beyond what you would expect. And I think, and Miff's touched on it there, Celtic fans have welcomed him back with open arms because by and large, fans as well as players, certainly when you get into the arena as such, you're just there for the football. Politics is politics, it's part of life, and it takes place in other areas. But when you're there at the football, you're there to kind of enjoy the spectacle and hopefully cheer your team on to a win. And for the most part, I don't know how political or not Liel Abada is at 22 years of age. He'll have his own thoughts, of course he will. I don't think he's been particularly outspoken on them unless I've missed that somewhere. And I also think, reading between the lines, he potentially just wants to enjoy his football, James, but he'll be under huge pressures in different areas. You'll have heard that he's walked down the tunnel and not joined the celebrations in the last 2 or 3 games now, and that's not playing ball. You're there, you're a key part of a team. It's a team sport. You can't be anything less than 100% committed to your teammates, otherwise that's going to break elsewhere. And I think we touched on it in one of the post matches. In terms of the optics, he will struggle to stand in front of Palestinian flags and celebrate, knowing the pressures that brings at home. And anyone can debate the rights and wrongs of that, but you can understand his point of view. That would make him uncomfortable potentially. And to Miff's kind of overarching point on it, James, can you see a future? Can you see a solution?
As long as he's able, I suppose, as to Miff's point, that as long as he's able to kick a ball, play well for Celtic, score an assist, then yeah, you do see a future. Is the political situation so heavy on his shoulders that is unlikely? Very potentially. He's under severe pressure back home. I actually caught an interview with Martin Geisler and a guy called Yuri Levy, who seemed to be a football correspondent from Israel. Actually seemed fairly reasonable, to be fair to him. Martin Geisler was going for the kind of gotcha interview, trying to get Celtic stuck in, and he didn't really get it. I thought it was a pathetic interview from him. So he was just speaking quite broadly. Now, they're speaking quite broadly about things, elephant in the room, not been mentioned. Obviously, my politics on it are well enough known that it's part of the problem is that the media standpoint has moved from where Celtic fans were on, say early October last year. Celtic fans were firm and have been firm for a long, long time, and the media were there against that. We all knew it was going to happen. It has happened, and the media has swung kind of to soften up on that towards our kind of line, that things should be brought to a ceasefire and stuff, and that puts further pressure on Abada from back home. Why you'd hanging about that kind of place, get your move. But if that is the case, and if he really feels that has to be the case, then it should have been a frank discussion with Celtic and his agent in the January window to move. Yep. I think Celtic have played it almost not perfect. They've accommodated him in terms of, this is a place where you play football, and if you're ready to play football, we're ready for you. There's your fans going out in a game or winning a big game. Got his applause, credit to the fans for that. There's nothing more Celtic could have done. It's not Celtic. This is coming from Israel, not from Celtic. And if he is pictured, even if he's in the halfway line, camera behind him, Palestinian flag in front of him, Celtic players celebrating, that picture goes back to Israel. What gyp does his family get? We've seen the trouble that people get in Israel for not being, lockstep behind the government. It's he must have worries that that's going to impact on his family. So he's not making himself scarce because he's not part of the team. He's making himself scarce because there's further implications for being caught there. So, like you say, he's not been overly outspoken himself. He was, did he service in the IDF? The way you're brought up in Israel,
you have to.
Yeah, you have to. That's what
It's
I mean.
compulsory.
Yeah. So he's gone through that. But the boy's in a terrible situation. Celtic have handled it really well. The fans have backed him. This is an Israel problem, not a Celtic problem.
Yeah, I'd agree. A lot of really good points there. Also, my any hopes we had of getting Martin Geisler on the show have been completely extinguished.
I'd love to have him on the show after that. Shocker.
I was just going to say, get it up, you guys, Laura, after James was aiming for him.
The reality of the situation for Liel Abada is that he signed a new deal on the 1st of September last year, a 4-year deal. So it keeps him at the club, certainly on paper, until summer of 2027. You wonder if there must have been discussions behind the scenes. There was that time where it was publicised that Liel Abada did want to speak to the hierarchy at the club, and he was seen going into Celtic Park on his crutches at the time. And there's no doubt there'll have been discussions with most likely Michael Nicholson, certainly Brendan Rodgers, about what the future may hold for Liel Abada at Celtic. And it's strange then that we've kind of come through that time, gone through a January window where there must have been opportunity, and decided against, for whatever reason, moving the player on.
I think he'll have said, I can do it.
I think that's the bit for me. Probably need to bear in mind the board's attitude towards the element of fans who do support Palestine. That may have played a part in the reassurances that
that's a lot for a lot of people.
True, but
that was a time where the club were kind of encouraging fans not to wave flags. It was around about that time.
But Ukrainian flags are okay.
That's another story.
Still, you take my point that the board were, if not at war with the fans, were certainly trying to clamp down on the support that the people of Palestine were receiving for Celtic fans at the time. Whilst it's sensitive, whilst it's unfortunate because you're talking about a young footballer's career here as well, and potentially that being derailed or certainly pushed to the side for another 4 or 5 months, what it all really truly boils down to is, can he go out in the park and produce the goods? And that comes down to his mentality. The other element to it is exactly what you say, the optics, and if they make it back home, the ramifications that could have for his family. None of us can really put ourselves in that position. I'm sitting here chaffing about it, saying, well, if you're no scoring goals and assisting for Celtic, on your way, wee man. But really, let's be honest, none of us can really put ourselves in that position. All we can do is say, let's hope that a resolution's found and that Abada's back in the team. More importantly, the overarching thing for all of this is that a resolution's found in Palestine and that innocent people stop being killed.
Of course.
But in the context of Liel Abada, I personally think it's got to be very, very difficult for him to feel like he can give his best for the team at this stage, and therefore I find it very unlikely he'll be available for selection for some time to come.
I think that's going to play out, James. I was going to ask the question or suggest that, we as fans to an extent should try and empathise with somebody like Liel Abada, but how can you empathise with a situation that he's facing as a young player and the situation that's ongoing back home? It's nothing that any of us have ever experienced, and nor would you wish that upon anybody. It's very difficult, and it transcends football. It's a very serious topic, and you can understand the challenges that Liel Abada's facing at this moment in time. Last question, James, quite pointedly before we move on. Will we see him in a Celtic shirt again?
Not this season.
And beyond?
I think it does depend. If we find a ceasefire and we find some way through the madness and the massacres, then
if anything, it looks going to get worse.
Yeah, it certainly is right now. But if that does calm down, I think even if that does calm down, you're probably looking for a move in the summer. I suppose Celtic don't want to be seen to be facilitating a move out for a player who feels politically unsafe at Celtic, because that's not the case. The fans have welcomed him back, but I think the summer might be a good kind of step off point. Yeah,
challenging situation all round, but let's hope whatever the solution may be, that solution can be found for all concerned. Moving on, I'm going to stay on the subject of Celtic wingers, but a very different situation, absolutely. I'm going to talk about James Forrest, Miff, which I'm sure you'll be glad to hear, but not so much in terms of what I'm going to say. So James Forrest, he's not played 1 minute of competitive football or any football for Celtic over the last 8 games, and you'd argue that he's got Daisen Maeda, Palma, Kuhn, Yang, and maybe even Rocco Vata ahead of him in the pecking order. He's 33 years of age. He's not playing much football at all. Same question. Will we see much of James Forrest in a Celtic shirt again?
Yes.
I need some rationale behind that, because we're not seeing any glimpses just now.
No, listen, I think he can consider himself unlucky given the output of some of the wingers over the winter period. I think Forrest's a relatively safe bet. When you play him around, he'll do what Rodgers loves, and he'll retain possession and recycle it. I think what's been noticeable this season, unfortunately for Jamesy, is he's just maybe lost that ability to beat his man on the outside, which was always his forte, getting to the byline, getting the crosses in. But he's still good at linking the play. I just like him. He's a Celtic legend. I still think we'll see more of him before the end of the season comes.
He signed a 3-year extension, James, in May of 2022, so it keeps him here till May of next year, 2025.
Cheers, Ange.
It felt like a long time at the time, and it's now kind of playing out like that. It felt too long. I think it is too long.
You need to end this hate.
No hate.
I mean, let's look at his attitude first of all. He's fit as a fiddle, fit as he's maybe ever been at Celtic, but he has lost that half yard of pace. It's come at a time when Rodgers is in the next phase of his Celtic plans for this season, which is much more movement, much more dynamism, and he's not really going to give us that. Even if we've shipped wingers out in this window, 2 guys on his side, Tillio and Johnson, both out, but it's still very congested in front of him. Mm-hmm. So it's not really right. If he's not going to start, if we accept that, sorry, Miff, time comes to everyone, then is he going to make the bench? And if so, ahead of who? So, is he ahead of Kund? Is he ahead of Maeda? I don't think so. So it's just numbers.
I think Yang returning as well.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And he's come back. He's played a part.
He's lively.
In the Asia Cup.
Yeah, and that's the movement that Rodgers is looking for.
That's what I mean. Around, if I think of the squad yesterday, I kind of understand why he's not in it. But I think going forward, he'll have a part. Even if it's a small part, he'll still have a part to play.
I think only through injury and suspension to other wingers. I think if everybody's fit,
we've got hundreds of them.
He's trying to beat me here, and I'm no rising.
No, but you've even got Rocco Vata, who's very much a fringe player at this moment in time. But Rodgers seems to be favouring him getting a slot on the bench, over James Forrest. Even just a side point, James, you and I, as I said on the post match yesterday, Louis Palmer was the only summer signing that started the game. In fact, and Adam Ida, of course, from the January. Signing, yeah. It's really damning, but we can't get into that at this moment in time. But yeah, all of those players, Maeda's ahead of James, Palmer's definitely ahead of him, Kuhn, Yang, and you can debate Vata. You can't have 6 wingers in your match day squad.
I wouldn't even debate Vata. You have to get the youth in there to see if he can do it. That's got to be your option off the bench. We know what we get for Jamesy, and he is, he's steady Eddie. He retains the ball. There might be a game where that becomes, useful, but he is now. I mean, it's just his age.
Look at the body language in this guy.
Just the shoulders,
closed off.
Is Mikey been playing for West Brom?
Came off the bench the first weekend. I've not checked for the weekend there.
I have.
I have not. I meant to keep an eye on him and David Turnbull, but I don't know how they done at the weekend.
Seen Cardiff were 2 down after about 10 minutes at home to Preston.
Bring on the dynamo.
Get the bill on.
Again though, just as we discussed a wee bit for Abada, are you surprised that, given the real lack of game time that James is going to get presented with, that he wasn't allowed to leave? There was suggestion in the final few days that he potentially was going to go to Cardiff on loan, if nothing more permanent.
Oh, lovely boy.
But why was he not allowed? Because he seems surplus to requirements, Miff.
Here's a question, sorry, Miff. Why not get him out to a team that would challenge our opposition? Because he could be handy for someone else. Is he handy for Dundee? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
St Johnstone, Aberdeen.
That's what I think. I think we should be doing far more of that.
Yeah, I thought there would have been lots of that in the window, and there wasn't.
Up until recently, I've been saying that about I think that's exactly 6 months at Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, whatever. Go and get a few goals and come back confident. Even somebody like Yang try to acclimatise here, needed game time for the Asia Cup, but I think that's definitely a player in Yang. Just decision making. You can see he's got the individual
Final
skill.
part.
Just needs that, and I think that's something that Rodgers, to be fair, Rodgers is the man to coach that out.
He'd one really good moment, didn't he, where he burst down the left hand side. Did he nutmeg a guy and then cut inside another guy? And it was just the final ball. We spoke about it, James. The final ball, I think Kuhn was open on the right hand side. The
Get the head up.
They say the most important touch in football is the last one, Miff. Yes, get your first touch right, control it, but it's what you do with your final pass, your final execution. It's no good doing the great stuff and then giving it away. We end up getting a throw-in out of it.
Do they say that?
They
Is that what they say? They say
inverted
that?
commas, they say that.
Have we got time? Can I ask just a wee rogue question? What's the panel's opinion on Kuhn?
Getting there, getting better.
I was at Easter Road, as I say. I thought he was shocking. I thought he was. We've mentioned that Abada gave a really poor performance. Kuhn was just as bad.
Was it not just one of those games though? I think everybody was shocking with him. Really?
Well, so you're watching it and there's a lot of frustration doing the rounds, but every time it went to Kuhn, who was playing on the right hand side, he either gifted it away or played a really cautious, safe pass back into his midfielder, his fullbacks. I thought he was woeful.
It's not an option anymore because the horseshoe is gone.
The horseshoe of uncertainty. We've scrapped that.
Gone.
Brendan's made a call.
It was
The
there.
possession-based horseshoe smothering teams.
It took 28 minutes for it to appear yesterday. I thought it was good.
Now, the jury remains out on Kuhn. A bit more encouraging when he came off the bench yesterday. You just need to give him time.
That's actually what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought.
Idiot podcasters right off signing after 2 games.
I thought.
They were.
I thought
yes.
he showed up. He showed a bit of spark yesterday, and I was really. I think he's got to be decent. And I did also say about, you can ask the boys when we signed Ida. I was like, I know why you are all going nuts, right? I get it. I totally get it. But I don't think this is going to be that bad.
Yeah.
I did say that at the time. I know I've not been on since, but he was very well heralded when he was younger.
Yep.
He's had a few injuries. Norwich have been an absolute basket case of a club, to be fair. And he was keeping Pookie out the team for a while. He's just not kind of kicked on, and I think maybe this move is the thing for him. I think it's just got to be the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Not quite Hooper-esque. I can see you've got that look in your eye. Not quite Hooper-esque, but I'm hopeful.
Permanent.
I'm hopeful.
I think he'll play his part between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, so
James, just to wrap this up before the break, your final comments on James Forrest's Celtic future.
I think
And Miff's watching carefully here.
I think the minutes will be slim. You know, that's just the way football goes. I'm in two minds. I'd love to see them, play on another year or so and be a one club man and all that stuff. And that might still be the case, but I still think he's something to offer teams. Whether it be in Scotland, England, or elsewhere. I think he could go and do a bit of a job. So whatever he does, he goes with our best wishes.
If he's not got a steady, can we go and get a payday down south?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see where it goes for James. But let's take a short break, and when we come back, a very disgruntled Miff will be giving us this week's Mystery Celt. Welcome back, folks. We're now going to go to this week's Mystery Celt, which Miff will be providing. But before we go to that, we'll take a quick look at last week's, which was provided by Paddy. Clue number 1, James, I have 47 caps for Scotland. Number 2, I've also played for Chicago Fire and Hull City. And number 3, I've won the FA Cup. I know you don't listen when you're not on, Miff, but
Absolutely not interested.
did you get this one?
Not interested. I actually block all notifications and everything. If I'm not on,
is Miff in
no
it?
interested. Nah, boom.
Just to recap then for guys like Miff who didn't quite catch it, the answer was Sean Maloney, of course. Sean Maloney had 2 spells at Celtic between 2001 and 7, and then again between 2008 and 2011. Went on to play for Wigan, Chicago Fire, then Hull, as mentioned, won the FA Cup for Wigan. And he's since managed Hibs and is currently managing Wigan in League One. Miff, your thoughts on Sean Maloney?
He gave great hope to us small stumpy men.
James, anything to add to that?
I suppose hope was the word when he burst through kind of thing. You're thinking this is going to be the player for the ages. And he had a great career at Celtic and elsewhere. Maybe didn't quite hit the heights that I expected of him, but he's going on to do well. I think he was very poorly treated at Hibs as a manager, given the nonsense that was going on there. So I hope he does well at Wigan and goes on and bounces back for that. A total pro, by the way, just very focused on his game.
Yeah.
Technically excellent.
Yeah.
And I always remember him speaking about when Roy Keane came to Celtic. And Keane spoke to him before I think it was the League Cup final against Dunfermline. Was that the one Big Dion scored?
Yeah.
And Keane pulled him aside in the dressing room and said, your career's defined by these games and the difference you make in these games. And I just thought that was something really, really telling, is that it's nice to know that, I know bringing Keane in divided the fans because some folk thought he was just here to tick a box and come for a payday. Others were, like me, were just absolutely delighted. I had Keane 16 on the back immediately, within a day of him signing. But to know that things like that were going on in the dressing room and he's passing that sort of thing on, just having that sort of influence in the dressing room was great. And I thought with Sean Maloney, for somebody that came through at Celtic, it was very unusual for a Scottish player. That he was a very technical player. He had a wee bit of pace, but he was a very technical player, and he was a player I absolutely loved watching. He was a favourite of mine, Sean Maloney.
Any guy that scores a goal like that against Rangers, It's always
Yeah,
going
it was
to
a
be
cracker. One thing I've always remembered about Sean Maloney, it sticks out. I think most of us have never watched Seville back. Have you watched it back? Did you?
No.
I've never watched the replay of the game. Don't think I ever will. But what does stand out for me is that in the dying minutes, Celtic get a free kick in a relatively dangerous area with Henrik Larsson on the park and Sean Maloney
I couldn't believe
pulled
it.
rank. Is that the right term?
Couldn't believe it.
Sean Maloney
On the
stepped
right.
up and fired one over the bar.
Aye, I nearly caught it.
I don't know if anyone's got the clip or wants to share it, or James, you'll need to watch it back to catch that. But it definitely happened, because at the time I thought,
I remember at the time.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
2-goal Larsson, a hat trick, all set up for you. Sean Maloney blazes it over the bar. Not to finish on a negative with
we
Sean
started
Maloney.
off giving him all the plaudits career. And by the way,
Yeah, it's just something that stood out. But no, a great professional. He's kind of sitting around about mid-table in League One there with Wigan, but hopefully he can fire them back up.
I'll end on a positive and a familiar note. Denied an absolute stone waller at the Copeland Road. Yeah. Davy Beer just whips his legs away from him.
2 in the same game, I think.
But that, I mean, he just not dissimilar to the one Lennon get denied in probably the exact same spot.
Anyway, enough Sean Maloney chat. Good guy.
All the best, Sean.
Doing well down at Wigan. Hopefully he manages to get them some sort of promotion. Miff, what's the clues? You said they're a bit sketchy this week, is that right?
I thought I
Deleted
them. The panic was there for that'll be on video. Right, I'll go for it, right?
Go for it.
Dave, you're going to be busy tonight anyway, so. I started my playing career in 1996 and retired in 2013. Hear my voice change there? It's like it's more authoritative than that. Aye.
Sound like a traffic warden.
Okay.
I won what? I won exactly 50 international caps for my country.
Okay.
My former clubs include FC Twente and AEK Athens.
So we had Venegar that did play with 20, but
didn't
it's...
play with EK.
Ike.
I've no idea. You're right. They are sketchy.
Aye, plenty dead here. So
Sketchy.
played for 19 years, had 50 caps, and played with 2 clubs. Cheers, Miff. That's great.
Footballer who played
Finally.
for a country.
Finally.
You've got a bonus clue?
Bonus clue. And I've got my other... This isn't the clue that I would... Aye. I was signed by Neil Lennon.
That's not really helping.
2 former clubs. Duration of playing career.
Riza? Nah.
Edson
unfortunately.
Braffide.
Nah, I'll leave that one.
Aye, we'll need to move on. As
Do you want
always...
the last one?
Give us a clue at the end.
Aye, save it till the end of the show.
End of the show.
Save it till the end of the
Build
show.
up.
Aye.
I've only been waiting 3.5 years. Brilliant. I'm
was
getting
going-
my flivers.
I was going to say, as always, the answer will be beeped out, but there's nothing to beep here because we didn't have any decent guesses. So we'll share the clues on the socials as well, and we'll reveal the answer in next week's show.
Wait till I took a drink of coffee there. Do you know
Remember, if you want to set the mystery out for a future episode, just get in touch via Twitter and you can be the one providing the clues next time around. Okay, to close out the show, I've got a bit of a listener's question that was sent in from Stephen Cairns on Twitter. Stephen is at Kermit_1987 on Twitter, if you want to check out his profile. But Stephen said, with 13 games and therefore 39 points to play for, what number of games wins us the league this season? Bearing in mind that we're at both Tynecastle and Ibrox before the split. So your initial response to that one, James?
Something close to 39. I don't think they're going to drop much. I don't think the refs are going to do anything terribly fair. If you're not going to send off Golson for that or Silva for his second booking, that's a sign of things to come. The intimidation on Willie Collum is worth a treat. There you go. So that's going to be the case between now and then. So I think we'll beat them home and away. So that is going to give you a bit of space, but we can't use that space. Anytime a league comes down close, Rangers tip it because the referees go in their favour. So we're just going to have to dig in and win all 13 of these games.
Spoken like a bitter man, Miff.
I'm a bitter man.
Yes, a bitter man.
But I think it's fair to say that you'll certainly need to win almost all of those 13 games, if not all of them.
Well, since Clement's come in, the evidence is there. Rangers' record against the rest is pretty decent. So other factors may come into it, like will Aberdeen qualify for the top 6? If they do, that would be
Extra
extra Pittodrie. That could have an impact. Like James said, I'd be confident of beating Rangers twice, because I don't think your problem is against them, ironically enough. But Rangers have improved since Clement's come in. We're a Celtic podcast, but you can,
Disagree.
It's okay to say that. I think they've improved. But still, I think we're a better team. My hope is that now that line has been drawn under the transfer window, or lack of activity in the transfer window, and we move on and we've got players returning, is that level of consistency that we've been so used to over the past few years will return.
I think, we're in a place now that you can, sometimes have a few slip-ups, but we've kind of already had them, dropping points at home to St Johnstone and losing to Kilmarnock and Hearts and these kind of things. So you've kind of had them, that they were your kind of cushion, they're gone now, and we're getting into this really intense kind of running. So I'll give you the games between now and the split, certainly. So Saturday coming, we're at home at Kilmarnock, then it's Motherwell away the following week, then Dundee at home, then get into March, you've got Hearts away at Tynecastle. I think it's a 12 o'clock kick-off on the 3rd. That's a particularly tough one. They're flying at the moment.
Yeah.
I was looking at their form, and I think they've won something like 10 out of their last 11, something like that. We've then got Livingston in the Scottish Cup, a wee bit of a break on the 9th of March. Then we've got St Johnstone at home, and then Livingston away at the end of March, and then it's Rangers on the 6th of April, away of course, Ibrox, and then St Mirren at home, and then you've got your 5 split games, whatever they'll be. I suppose the ones that stand out, and it's to Stephen's point, it's Hearts away and it's Rangers away, but Celtic's big issue, as we've kind of touched on as well, we've not been dealing with the other teams as well as we should have. Yeah,
it's that simple. We've allowed the more negative tactics that other teams employ to be the dominant factor in the games that we've played, rather than us, as we've been so used to, taking the initiative and being able to break them down. Now you could argue that's been, I think Hatate missing is a huge part of that, to be perfectly frank with you. Hatate is that spark in the midfield, so us missing him is a huge thing. But also, confidence is a massive thing in football, and I think the players have been low in confidence because it's self-perpetuating. They know they've not been playing that well, and they maybe then become cautious. You mentioned Kuhn's cameo, even the other midfielders. The ball's then just getting recycled side to side because everybody's scared stiff to lose the ball. We become less creative, and that leads us to not really going anywhere, being put under pressure. We maybe make one mistake, concede one goal. I mean, we could beat it at home against Hearts. It's a corner and a free kick in the first 15 minutes of game's done. Mm-hmm. We just, really affected our confidence, and we just never had the spark to come back from after it. And, the atmosphere in the stadium was terrible after that. So all those things combined, are we now at a point where, given the recent run, you've not had great performances, but the results have been there. Mm-hmm. That then breeds the confidence. You get that confidence back, players return. It's just a different feel around the squad, and hopefully that leads to the momentum that sort of slingshots you into the running.
Yeah, and James, how important could the potential return of Rio Hatate and Cameron Carter-Vickers be? So in terms of the rest of this month, we're at the 12th of February right now. Across February, as I say, Kilmarnock coming, then Motherwell on the 25th, and Wednesday on the 28th. Wednesday on the 28th? Dundee on the 28th? There's 3 very winnable games there. Mm-hmm. Kilmarnock home, Dundee at home, Motherwell away. Motherwell do nothing but draw games of football these days, don't they? It's a crazy kind of form they're on. But Celtic, with or without Rio Hatate and Carter-Vickers, should be winning those games. If you don't win those games, you don't deserve the title, right? So you've got to go and take care of that. Then you head into that game against Hearts on the 3rd of March, and the hope is that one, if not both of those players may be back by then, and that would be a huge boost for such an important game.
I would, but we've seen with Rio, it takes some time to get back in. So even, we were talking about this just before the Asian Cup, we were looking to kind of he was just starting to get back into games, and he was coming on as a sub and all these things before he was going to start a game, and bang, he's away and gone again. And the danger would obviously be both in terms of him being able to get up to the speed of the game, but also his body being able to get up to the speed of the game, that he doesn't relapse and get into another injury when these injuries can start to kind of perpetuate. So I certainly wouldn't be rushing him. I'd love to see him playing a 10-20 minutes off the bench, maybe not even as much as half an hour. CCV, I think we'd be looking to have him back for then, that for sure. Mm-hmm. And the 2 guys that played yesterday, they showed they can defend. We know it's not as sexy as we like coming out with the ball, but they can defend. So if it's got to be backs to the wall a wee bit, then so be it. But this move to 4-4-2 does give us that wee bit of change of formation, that we can break down teams differently, and there's not that constant recycling because there's a big target man in Ida to go at there and let the ball break off that and see what O'Reilly, I'm really focused on what you can do, if not Bernardo, and Kyogo obviously in those positions, if not Palma, as we mentioned earlier on.
Miff James coming out with the sexy chat on Valentine's week, very, very topical.
It was your Lovebird jersey you've got on?
It's electric peach, I think we're going with.
Something.
Or electric salmon. Miff, just to answer Stephen's question before we start to round off the show. So 13 games, do we need to get close to win them all? Do you want to put a figure on that?
35.
37.
35 wins out of 13 games. We'll go 35 points out of 39, and hopefully that would be enough to get us over the line. James, your final comments for this week's show?
Where are we at? Yeah, so we've got that's the perfect way to look at it, is what you've just broken down there. Here's 8 games to the split. So it starts on Saturday against a very well organised Kilmarnock under Darren McKinnon's beat us twice so far this season. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Jeez, oh man, I said it out loud, didn't it? Didn't it feel right? So get that on Saturday. Get those 3 points on the board, and you're off to a really good start. Get the players back, and it just gets better and better.
My final words for the week go to you.
Yeah, listen, I think we've reached that point where everybody knows what's at stake. Hopefully that's us had our blip, if not in points being gathered, but certainly in performance levels. And with the returning players, things are really looking up.
Yeah, here's hoping we get those boys back sooner rather than later. So that wraps things up on this week's episode of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. Thanks to James and Miff for joining me, and our thanks to you for tuning in. We'll be back later in the week with the Countdown to Kick-Off show ahead of this weekend's game with Kilmarnock. And before that, on Wednesday, we'll be launching a brand new mini-series called CSC Stories, with the first episode featuring the guys at the Chicago Celtic Supporters Club. So be sure to check that one out. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for supporting the Celtic Exchange, and we'll see you again soon.